All right. Very good morning, very good evening. Welcome everyone to this demo sessions for this RAC course.
Thank you, Malik.
All right. So as I specified in my announcement, so today and tomorrow are going to be two demo sessions, and again nothing specific about the regular course content. It's just a general discussion and some basic architecture part on the RAC and networking we're going to cover. We're going to discuss today and tomorrow, and also I'm gonna go through all the course curriculum, course content, course timing, fee structure, and I'll keep it open for any questions and answers. Right, so you can make use of Zoom chat as well. So if you're unable to talk and you can post your questions in the chat, I'll be taking a look on those questions. Right. With that, I'll just get started. Very first thing is couple of questions, couple of pings what I got from last few days about this RAC course. Who will be training? Who will be the trainer? Who will be providing this entire course? Is there any third party person or third party vendor is coming and teaching this course? No. So answer is no. So this entire course will be delivered by me. I'll be the one who will be covering this entire course. So hope you all know about me. Maybe typo here. So you all know about me, and I'll be having 15 years or 16 years of experience in this Oracle world. And I given my introduction multiple times. So this entire 15, 16 years of experience, I dedicatedly worked on Oracle products. So I know in and out about Oracle database and still learning Oracle. And I'm continuing to learn Oracle and continue to work on and continue to serve on this Oracle field. So I did all the major activities like data center build from the scratch and data center migration and hundreds of database upgradation, migration, and cloud migration and rack setup and data guard setup. All those major activities what I performed. And also I worked on almost all the Oracle products, Oracle Database, RAC, OEM, Golden Gate, Oracle Exadata, Supercluster, Oracle ODA Box, JDL Array, Oracle EBS, PeopleSoft, and OBI. So almost all, most of the Oracle products I touched and I worked. And also I worked on the other database skill sets as well, SAP HANA, DB2, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and also worked on multiple cloud vendor, Oracle Cloud, AWS, and other DevOps tools, cookbooks, Jenkins, Python, shell scripting, Ansible, Terraform. So other DevOps skills also I worked. So it's completely on me. I'll be the one who will be delivering, no doubt, no question on that. So there are no other third party persons are delivering this course. Hope that's clear for everyone who are worried and who are asking this question from last few days on my WhatsApp, right? Right. So what next? So why are we all here? We are all here to learn about the Oracle RAC. So we already are the DBA expert and we are already working as a DBA. We want to enhance our skills. So what is next step after DBA? So next step is the RAC. So you have to work on RAC and understand RAC so that almost in the world, in the market, most of the production workloads runs under RAC. So if you are a DBA and you can survive and you can work for any customer for 1 to 4 years of experience, and if you're having more and more experience, more than 4 years of experience, you have to work, you have to support RAC and you have to know in and out about RAC. Then only you can get more opportunities and customer who is ready to pay more. So that's why we are all here to learn RAC. So let's understand what is the course curriculum, what is there in this particular course, what are the contents. So let's open this course curriculum link here. Hope you all gone through this particular course curriculum. If not, feel free to go over this particular link and understand the course curriculum. I'm going to ping here in the Zoom chat. You can take a note. Right. What this course curriculum contain? So it has a multiple chapters. So again, I just mentioned few points here, few bullet points here, but there will be a lot of things to cover and each of every topic. I'm not going to go over all of them. Again, as I told, it is not completely specified. There'll be a lot more to cover. I just mentioned high level points here. So we'll start with the introduction to the cluster-aware architecture, and Linux installation, and Linux networking configuration, and your entire two-node rack cluster installation, rack database installation, and your disk group creation, and your rack database creations, and your ASM architecture and ASM disk group administration, and understanding of ASM in and out, and managing the ASM storage. And chapter number 10, your administration of your ASM disk groups. So you're going to play a lot around ASM administration, ASM disk group maintenance, multiple redundancies, and striping, mirroring, fail groups, and external redundancy, high redundancy, and normal redundancy. So we'll talk about all of them in ASM architecture and ASM administration and ASM disk group maintenance on chapter number 9 and 10. So chapter number 11 is clusterware administration. How can I bounce my cluster? How can I bounce my RAC database? How can I bounce my services? And how can I move my services? And what are the cluster resources, cluster daemons, cluster services? What is my cluster startup sequence? A lot of things we'll talk about here. And what are my voting disks? What is OLR? What is OCR? What is cluster registry? What is local registry? And what are the different tools to manage them? SRUCTL, CRSCTL, and a lot of cluster tools. We'll play around that here. And again, continue with that cluster administration, OCR, OLR, voting disk, cluster resources, local resources, all the IPs, VIPs, scan IPs, public IPs, private IPs. And then again, how the load balancing works, how the scan works, and how the failover works, how the high availability works. A lot of things we're going to explore more internals here in the chapter number 11, 12, and continue with the chapter number 13, where we'll explore more on the database side. What are the database specific parameters pertaining to this rack? Right, what is P file, SP file, what is control file, data files, undo, temp, redo log, archlogs, all the table spaces, all the metadata, how it works in rack comparison with standalone. We'll explore more here. And chapter number 14 is about backups and recovery. What are the different backup methods for my RAC database? What are the different recovery methods for my RAC database? What are the different scenarios? My control file is corrupted. My data files are corrupted. My table space is corrupted. My SP file is corrupted. My password file is corrupted. How can I recover them using RMAN backup? And what is RMAN full backup, incremental backup, RMAN L0 backup, L1 backup, RAC to RAC database cloning? So all the recovery scenarios we'll explore more here in this chapter number 14. Chapter number 15 is listener. There are many listeners, ASM listener, scan listener, remote listener, local listener, database listener, and ASM net listener, flex listener. So we'll talk about ASM listener, TNS, scan connections, multiple things here. Chapter number 16 is about multi-tenant architecture, CDBs, PDBs, and how you can clone your CDBs and PDBs, how you can connect to CDB, PDB, how you can create a local user, common users, and how the TNS and listener work with CDBs and PDBs. So we'll go in depth about CDBs and multi-tenant architecture. ACFS, ASM cluster file system. It's act as your NFS network file system where you can provision or you can mount your own file system. You no need of dependency on the storage admin or Linux admin. I can create my own file system and I can mount it on all the RAC cluster nodes for automation or for scripting or for export, import or day-to-day activities. That will explore more on this ACFS part. RAC one node versus RAC database and versus standalone database. We'll explore more on this RAC one node database. Again, patching. We'll do rolling patching, hybrid patching, non-rolling patching. How can we minimize the downtime? And what is OPatch versus OPatch Auto? What is data patch? And how can I patch grid home, ASM home? How can I patch my database? What are the different patches? We'll talk about that. What are the quarterly patches and much more things here. So upgradation, how we can do RAC database upgradation from 11G to 19C, 12C to 19C. What are the pre-checks, post-checks? How can we minimize the downtime for upgradation? Can I do upgradation in online, offline? Is it a non-rolling, rolling? So we'll explore more on the upgradation part. Node addition or node removal. I have two node rack cluster, need to make it to three node rack cluster or four node rack cluster. How can I add a node? And it's a four node rack cluster. I want to remove one of the node, make it three node rack cluster. How can I do node removal with online without affecting any workload? Like how can I convert that single database, standalone database to rack database using DBCA, Enterprise Manager, rconfig, or your rman recovery? Right. So there's much more. Like we just mentioned high level topics here. Again, this particular course is formed based upon my overall experience as a RAC DB, a RAC expert. What are your day-to-day activities you are supposed to deliver to the client? So all will be put together here and then form this particular course. Right, and then whatever this chapter number 13, 14, 15 is some extra topics like resume writing and cover letter. We're gonna go through and brief about my own resume and cover letter so that you can build your own strong resume. And then we'll explore about the interview questions and answers. So once we complete this particular course, you should be able to crack any interview. We'll explore on that interview questions and answers part. And then finally, we'll conduct some mock interview. So this is only for the like who are interested. It's not a mandatory thing. If you're interested, you can go and then register for this mock interview. I'll connect with you and then I'll, take this mock interview one to one. Is it as if you are attending the live interview and after the interview I can, review it, how you made this interview and what could you have made better and how you could have handled those situations. So I'll be providing some feedbacks post that mock interview. Right. So that's entire course curriculum what we're going to deliver in this course. So I'll take a pause here for a minute if anyone has any questions or queries, or if you feel any of the topics is missing, feel free to unmute yourself, ask any questions, or you can post your questions. I'm happy to take those questions now.
Yeah. Hi, Malik. Good morning. Are you able to hear me, Malik?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Malik, so I can see in the 16th chapter, they mention like architecture, multi-tenant architecture, right?
Right.
So, entire course is going to be happening on multi-tenant architecture, or
Mix both of them.
okay? So, are the ARM and backups, blah blah things, everything is going to happen in multi-tenant architecture,
Both.
right?
Yeah, both.
Both. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So, is there any major changes, Malik, normal and the multi-tenant stuff?
Your fundamental architecture remains same. Your SGA, PGA, background process, and your data
No,
file.
no. I'm telling about the backups thing, upgradation, patching, etc. These kind of things. Everything is going to be changed, or the different process we are going to be
Whatever
happening
the
in the.
fundamental process remains same, whatever it is. Your RMAN backup, L0 backup, incremental backup. On top of that, there are some extra step will be get added, extra commands will be get added,
Okay.
and there's a different way to take a backup, and there is a separate way to take your PDB backup alone. And
Okay.
otherwise, fundamental architecture remains same, whether it's a database architecture, whether it's a backup, whether it's a patching, that remain fundamental architecture will be there. On top of that, there's a different way to handle this multi-tenant architecture.
So in the course, we are going to explain all the backup related things in the normal architecture. In the
Both.
same way, you are going to both. Okay, cool. And one more thing, Malik, regarding RAID 0, RAID 1, something I heard. So RAID and what it called, and And
We don't recommend to enable any RAID. Again, RAID is a different concept. It's out of the DBA scope. It's a storage level RAID. So when you set up your RAC database, you'll be using your shared storage. So once we explore about this database like ASM architecture, we configure our RAID level.
like redundancy.
Redundancy and striping. We have two fundamental strong architecture on the ASM. That's your mirroring and striping. We have external mirroring, we have normal mirroring, we have high mirroring. So normal redundancy, high redundancy, and external redundancy. So external redundancy is no copy, normal redundancy is two copy, one original and one duplicate. High redundancy is three copies, one original and two duplicate copies. So we our Oracle strongly recommend to have the redundancies at ASM level, not at the storage level. The storage level RAID is enabled by your OS admin or the storage admin. So we don't want them to enable that if we are enabling at ASM level.
Okay, so in the 19C, so it's not mandatory to use the ratings, right? It's
Not
not mandatory.
19C. Any RAC database, you don't need to enable at OS level RAID.
Okay, cool. Yeah, got it. Yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, thank you.
All right.
Yeah, hello, Malik.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, in our previous class, I think we did, based off the multi-tenant architecture, we actually installed 19C. So are we still looking at 19C, or maybe probably we're going looking at another version?
No, same 19C version.
Okay, 19C. All right, thank you.
All right.
And one more thing, Malik, regarding upgradations. So are we going to live demonstrate from lower environment to some
This
12C to
entire
19C?
course is live. Whatever I'm teaching, it will be based upon the live demonstration only. There's nothing
But
theoretical here.
I think actually I am one of your student in the Oracle DBA. But I think we didn't live demonstrate from 12C to 19C in this. Here
We
we
did
are
a,
going to.
we did the entire live demonstration.
Okay. Then
Yeah, I can go ahead and watch it if it is missed something. So everything will be live demonstration. We did basically three live demonstration. One is a command line upgradation, one is DBA upgradation, and the other one is your auto upgrade. There are multiple methods for your database upgradation. Everything what we did is a live.
okay. Then let me revisit it. Thank you.
All right. So any more questions? I'll give one more minute before I go to the next point.
Yeah, hello, Malik. Harita here. So, regarding the installation part, the system requirement and everything,
We'll
are we
talk
going to
about that.
discuss?
So we'll talk about
Okay,
that
and
in a
about
minute.
certification as well, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
And what we are going to discuss today and tomorrow, that one also will well idea to.
Please stand by. I'll cover that in a minute. All right. So next, what are the course duration, timing, and fee structure? So again, all will be already I specified it, but I'm gonna cover one more time. So course duration, course timing, and fee structure. You can go to my blog here. Whatever I just opened this blog and refer it over there. So here you can go for more information, or you can open directly these two links. The new upcoming batch, what's the timing and all will be specified. So this is the one what we are starting it this batch, and probably tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll be announcing the new batch when we'll be starting it. And you can keep a track of this upcoming batch details so that if you're unable to attend this time, and you can plan it for next time. So again, once you go for a demo link here, so that will be a Zoom link what we're using it, and we'll be having some more other details. So today and tomorrow are the two demo sessions what we are talking here, and this is the Zoom link what we're using it for today and tomorrow. And post that, once we start the regular classes from 3rd April, so we'll be having a dedicated Zoom link for those registered students. And again, coming to the duration, we'll be having only Thursday and Friday, 3 hours each day. So 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. IST, and it will be probably at 10 p.m. or maybe typo 11 p.m. EST to 2 a.m. EST, 3 hours in Eastern Time Zone. Maybe a little late for the Eastern Time Zones, midnight. So you can plan to schedule your time accordingly. So it'll be only 2 days in a week, Thursday, Friday. No weekend classes, no Saturday, Sunday, because till last batch we used to cover this RAC classes on the weekend, but due to this holidays and people are requesting you to take it on the weekdays and so that they can dedicate their weekend with the families. And we are trying to first time we're trying this RAC batch in the weekdays, Thursday, Friday. So this will be completed in 7 weekends, Thursday, 7 weekdays, right? So Thursday and Friday, considering 2 days, 3 hours in a week, we can complete it by max 7 or max to max 8 weekends. And it's a paid training, 15K Indian rupees or 185 US dollar will be conducted on a live or a Zoom session. And this course will be based upon Oracle 19C version. All right. So that's about a course, a duration, and the course timing, and when the actual course is going to start. Any questions here so far on the duration, timings, and the fee structure? No? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. How about you leave that time for the Eastern time? How about you leave it for 10 p.m.? I don't know. Does that work?
That can be possible. That can be made. Yeah. We will discuss that.
Okay. Yeah, because we here in Eastern time, we still have to go to work in the morning, you know.
Got it. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, just ping me one to one. I can talk to you. We can discuss it.
Okay. All
Maybe
right.
take it offline based upon the other
Uh,
students' feedback.
all right. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. And somebody asked about the minimum requirement. Here are the minimum requirement. Very, very must and mandatory things. Because very first thing is, do you have database knowledge? You should be having a database knowledge. Then only this RAC course fits for you. If you don't know about database fundamentals, you have not worked on Oracle basics, then don't attend this RAC course because you'll not be able to catch up the things. You should be knowing your basic database skills. You should be knowing your basics Linux and SQLs, and you should be knowing your basics of Windows and Linux. So if you don't know these things, then this course will be difficult and you'll not be able to understand. So all these things is the prerequisites for you to enhance yourself before enrolling this course. And most important thing is your hardware requirement. You should have minimum 20 GB RAM in your laptop and 150 GB SSD hard disk because you are going to set up a lab on your own laptop or desktop. So if you don't have this minimum hardware requirement, then you will not be able to set up the labs and you'll not be able to do your hands-on exercise. Whatever I am showing demo, you will be able to understand the concept and you'll be able to clear all your doubts. But once it comes to you to do a hands-on exercise, then you'll not be able to do it because of lack of lab. So we'll not be providing any lab. It will be done. Lab setup will be done on your own laptop or desktop. For that, you should have minimum the specified hardware requirement: 20 GB RAM and 150 GB SSD hard disk. All right. Any questions so far on the minimum requirement or course curriculum or course content, duration, fee structure? All right.
Malik Mahima here.
Yeah.
I am. Will you be able to provide some basic RAC scripts?
But there will be a lot of things.
Okay.
There will be a lot of automations, a lot of interview
Yeah.
questions, and the softwares. Everything will be available. So all will be provided
Okay.
as part of this course.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
So
Malik. Yeah, Malik, I have a quick one. In terms of the hardware requirements, you said it's 150 gig hard drive.
Right.
And yeah, how many nodes rack are we looking at? Because I'm looking at this 150. Because if we're looking at even three node, that means each of them is going to be using 50 gig. Do you think 150 gig is going to be enough, or we should be
150 is
looking?
enough, so it will be lesser than that. So we're giving 50 GB for each, but your VM will be using hardly 20 GB or 10 GB out of that,
Okay.
not more than that. So we'll be giving that 3 VMs, that too for only one day. So rest of the course will be only two node rack. Only for the node addition and node removal, we'll be having one node extra. Otherwise, two node rack is more than enough to complete this entire course.
Okay.
All right. So feel free to reach out to me on my WhatsApp number or cell or on my email ID. I'm going to post it here in the chat. So for any questions, queries, or any doubts or any registration process, feel free to use this WhatsApp number or on my cell number or email ID. You can reach out to me anytime. All right. Then Google Drive access. For I think those who are registered, they already got access on the Google Drive. We got a couple of students got registered, and I have already added those registered students into our WhatsApp group. So we have this WhatsApp group dedicated to each batch. So we'll be using the same WhatsApp group for all the communications. Any questions, queries, or if you need any help, or if you're stuck on any lab setup, or you want to revise, or you have a lot of questions you want to clarify, always use our WhatsApp group, and it will be benefited to all the other students. So this is only for the registered student. They will be part of this a dedicated WhatsApp group for this particular RAC course. And you can post any questions over there. And the students who are already registered, they got access on the Google Drive. So basically we'll be having a 4 Google Drive links, link 1, 2, 3, 4. So in link 1, we'll be having all the course materials, PPTs, lab exercise, workbook, and many more things. And in the link two, we'll be having all the softwares, the tools, entry questions, and automation script. Somebody asked about scripting, right? There'll be a lot of automation scripting already uploaded into Google Drive. You can download all of them and you can explore it in your lab, and then you can use it for any of the client. Right? So there'll be more and more script will be uploading it, keep uploading over there, and there'll be interview questions in the Google Drive. I'll be keep updating that interview question document as and when I come across multiple or many questions. So it'll be keep on running documents, the scripts and interview questions and all the software tools, everything will be uploaded. And you can download all of them into your local laptop, no restriction on that. And also along with that will be two more links. One is previous batch recordings. I'll be granting access on the previously completed, like last month what we completed this RAC course. We'll be granting access on those recordings so that you can watch those recordings in advance. You want to complete this course within a week or within 2 weeks, you can go and then watch all those recordings. Those are again live recordings, live classes. So you can complete this course in fast track on your own phase. So again, other advantages about this previous batch recording is you can watch the recording well in advance before attending these live classes so that you can ask more questions and make it interactive and clarify all your doubt. That's the idea behind that, where I'm providing that previous batch recording. Again, there's no restriction on this recordings. You can even download it to your local laptop. No such restrictions or uh, you know only read only access. So it will be like even you can download it and you can keep it in your laptop. And again, one more link is current batch recordings, where I'll be everyday sessions will be recorded and uploaded into this link. And you can, if you missed this class, live classes, and you can go back and watch this recording. Again, these recordings also you can download it locally into your laptop, no restriction. And there might be some questions, how long this Google Drive access will be there. These are lifetime access, no restrictions or no time span. It's a lifetime access. You can access this recording on the Google Drive. Or as I told, even you can download these recordings locally into your laptop. That's also possible. And again, about Google WhatsApp group, again, this is also lifetime access. You have to keep that if you have to keep that WhatsApp group active, keep posting your questions, queries, and then keep it active. And you can post you attended any recent interview and you're unable to crack that interview or unable to answer few of the questions. Always post those questions in our WhatsApp group. Or you're already working for a client and you need some assistance or some help for one of the activities, and you can always post those questions or queries, and then I'll connect with you. It's likewise you can make benefit out of this Google Drive and WhatsApp group. Make sense? Any questions so far? I'll take a pause here for a
Um,
minute. Yep.
yes. I have a question here. So for the Google Drive email you're talking about, so does it matter the kind of email, whether Gmail,
Yep.
Outlook, or whatever? Does it matter or no?
It's ideally it should be a Gmail account because all will be stored under the Google Drive. So preferred one is your Gmail account.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yep. All right. So I'll take a pause here for a minute if anyone has any questions before we go into few of the fundamentals on the RAC.
So, any concepts on data guard in RAC, Malik?
Will be covered in extra topic. So in the last batch also we have covered one topic on the data guard, how to set up rack to rack data guard and how can you make the data guard sync. So those will be covered as an extra topic in previous batch. And previous to previous batch we covered wallet as an extra topic. Again, if you go over the course curriculum, what I mentioned, what I specified, there'll be some other topic. Can you cover OEM? No, OEM is not part of the course. Can you cover some Oracle licensing? No, Oracle licensing will not be covered here. Can you cover some wallets or TDE? No, that will not be covered here. So likewise, data guard also will not be covered in this RAC course. Data guard is part of our database course. So based upon everyone interest who are interested on a specific topic, one or two extra topic, end of this course, we're going to plan it or we're going to cover it. But again, that is subjected to everyone interest. Right, for the last batch, we covered the data guard and we gave the live demo on rack to rack data guard. And last to last batch, we covered wallet and TDE, how we can configure wallet and TDE. So likewise, one or two topics or again, after the end of this course, it's not complete, right? Any questions, queries, or any topic you want to cover, you can always use our WhatsApp group. So then we'll regroup after the course and then regularly we can connect some extra topics. Right. Any more questions?
Yeah, one questions from me. So do you have any kind of any basics of Exadata will be covered or something like that? Because
No,
nowadays they are
again,
asking
Exadata is out of this course. But again, if
that.
anyone interested, will be covered at the end of the course. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
no
that's
live
what.
demo and all, so basics architecture part will be covered.
Yeah. That's what it, that should be fine.
Yeah, it can be covered.
Yeah.
All right. Any last questions before we get into some technical discussion on this RAC architecture part?
Yeah, one last thing, Malik.
Hi, Malik. There is a question from my side.
Go
So,
ahead.
as you said that Exadata and Data Guard is not a part of this training. So, is there any other training which covers these topics?
No. Data guard, I told it's a part of our database course. Exadata, no, they don't, there's no other
No
course.
course. Okay.
Malik, what do you tell about regarding cloud things, like how the future will be going to be happen? Because they are expecting 4 years next to it, they need a cloud concepts, everything. So what you will tell regarding this one?
All right. So very good question on that. Again, before we go into this technical discussion, let's take some commonly asked questions from most of the DBAs. Let's say one is cloud technology, uh, you know, making impact on DBA role? So is the DBA role are going to be vanish? So, or the DBAs are going to be fear about cloud. And as a DBA, are we supposed to learn DevOps skills? And then certifications. So some of the commonly most widely discussed questions: how Oracle certifications. Oracle certifications going to be impact in our career. And as a DBA, are we supposed to learn any DevOps skills? Or is the cloud technologies are going to be vanish our DBA role or reduce our DBA role or going to impact DBA technologies? So first question, a cloud technologies is make impact on all the field, not only DBA field, even uh, any field. It is a network admin, storage admin, Linux admin, or DBA or support job. So cloud technologies are going to impact. For example, as a DBA, we used to do Oracle database installation end to end. With these cloud technologies, you don't need to worry about that. Just log into your cloud and just to click on a single button, your database is ready. Having said that, the moment you click on the single button, your cloud database creation fails. Who is going to validate that? Who is going to check that one? And DBA is must for that. So what is impact for the DBA role? Some of the tasks what DBA used to do is automated. But underlining, if any issues or any maintenance or administration for that particular database, DBAs are must. Without DBA, you cannot run this cloud technologies. So without DBA support, you cannot learn this, you cannot adapt to your cloud. What is extra comes to DBA here is you need to start learning the cloud technologies, because most of the startups are always willing to adopt to cloud technologies, and most of the enterprise customer, they will not be willing to go to the cloud. Let's say I'm an enterprise business, my database is of hundreds of terabytes, so I'll not be willing to run such a workload on my cloud. I'll be always keeping it on premises. I'm a startup company, so I'll not be having any, my own storage or own data center. So I preferably go with the cloud technologies until I get established and start up. So that is a fundamental era where all the startup are always willing to adopt to cloud technologies. But once you are established enterprise business, then you cannot run the workload on the cloud. So most of the enterprise business, like big databases, always will be on premises. So you cannot say that completely all the business runs on cloud. You cannot say that completely all the business runs on premises. Both cloud and on premises always be there, will be keep running. And with the cloud technologies, some of the jobs what DBA used to do, it will be like automated, like creation of database is just a single click now. And to maintain that database, always DBA is there. So you are running the backup with the scheduling, and if the backup fails, DBA has to be there to check that why it failed, understand and fix that. And if any performance issue comes, DBA will be there to take a look on the database performance and fix that issue. Right? That's the underlying impact what it has. So there won't be possibility that cloud technologies completely removes DBA job. No, nothing like that. Only fewer tasks, whatever DBA used to do, will be automated. But otherwise, DBA job will be forever. Makes sense, right? Any questions on that? Right.
Yeah, Malik, I have a quick one. Back to the data guard discussion. I'm just thinking because when we did our standalone, the primary objective of data guard by itself is high availability and for disaster recovery. So now is there any specific difference between data guard implementation with our standalone, with ASM, and now on the other side, with our RAC architecture? What's going to be the difference in terms of the data guard implementation in those different architectures?
Right. So data guard, right? Like let's say primary motto or the intention of data guard is your, as you said, high availability. High availability is a different story. High availability is, again, there will be some little bit of downtime. Let's say you mentioned high availability. Let's say your disaster recovery. That's the main intention about your data guard. So Oracle recommends MA architecture, maximum availability architecture. What that meaning? This is Oracle standards and Oracle recommendation. Your production workload should follow this MA architecture. You can search in Oracle documentation what is a MA architecture, and they will be asking you to set off requirement. What is this MA architecture? Your prod should run on RAC. Your DR should run on RAC. So Oracle recommends you to run your prod database as a RAC and DR database as a RAC. So what happens here? You have a standalone prod, you have a standalone DR. So you have prod database and you have DR database. You will be continuously log shipping here from prod to DR. Let's say now your all the application running under this prod. And similar concept, let's say you have RAC node 1, RAC node 2, where this is a RAC cluster where you are running your prod and where you are running prod here. And similarly, we recommend you to set up your DR RAC, your DR node 1, DR node 2, that will be your DR setup. Then your log shipping will be happening from here. So same application running over here. So that is first, you can forget about this DR concept. First talk about only this prod standalone prod DR. Standalone versus RAC. You have this standalone production database and you have RAC production database. So major difference between this standalone and RAC: high availability, load balancing, and failover. So these are three major differences: high availability, load balancing, and failover. All these three features are available in RAC, and these features are not available in standalone. What is this high availability, load balancing, and a failover? Let's take a look at here, this diagram. Let's say right now my business started, and right now I have 1,000 users are connecting, like around 300 from here, 400 from here, and 300 from here. So all these 300, 400, all are coming to a single instance here. This is your Linux server. So your Linux server as of now is able to handle this 1,000 connections. And once your business grows up and it becomes 2,000, and then your Linux server is unable to handle those 2,000 connections, and you end up with your database instance is getting crashed and your server is getting crashed. It's a complete downtime. And in case of RAC, right now 1,000 users are coming, 300 here, 400 here, and 300 here. All will go here, different instance, and this server is got only 300 connection, here 400 connection, here 300 connection. So your RAC cluster, this is your standalone database and it's a RAC database. Your RAC server is able to handle those many connections. And when this standalone server is overloaded, you may get a chance to crash it. But in case of RAC, you have multiple servers where any new connections are coming, it may go to any of these nodes. And in case of worst scenario, one of the rack server crashed. All these 300 connected users will be automatically failover. Let's say here 1000 users are who are connected. If this instance crash or the server crash, all these 1000 users will be disconnected. There is no failover concept in RAC, in standalone. Whereas in RAC, automatically those users will be failed over to other nodes, other servers. That's a failover. And high availability. High availability meaning if the one server is fully busy and occupied with all the activities, any new client is coming, the new client will be goes to any other node. So high availability is available with RAC, but not available with your standalone. And load balancing is available with RAC, where all the connected clients will be distributed across all the nodes evenly, but which is not available with the standalone. Failover, if any node crashes, all the connected users will go to other nodes, but those will not be, that feature will not be there for your standalone. So that is the major difference between your standalone versus RAC. Once you understand that one, let's now go back to DR. Is it mandatory to have a DR standalone versus RAC? It's the same concept. If I go back to that old diagram, right here, if actual DR disaster scenario meaning like my production is running under London data center and my DR is running under New York. So the moment London data center is crashed, maybe earthquake or flood or fire, any of the activities, my entire London data center crashes. I need to enable my New York data center as a production data center. So if I have a DR database as a standalone, then I'll not be getting those features. Whereas the standalone, I'll be getting only one DR server that become now primary. When the failover happens and your DR database become primary database, your DR database become now prod database. So with this standalone, you will not be getting those features, high availability, load balancing, and failover. And then your business cannot be able to run here. And that's the major difference. You can configure your DR database as a standalone, fine, you can do it. You can configure your DR database as a rack, fine, you can do it. But in case of real disaster happens, is your production workload will be handled by that. So this is one kind of setup: standalone prod, standalone DR, rack prod, rack DR, and also you can do other setup. I have do prod, standalone, and I can do rack DR, or I can do my rack prod and I can do my standalone DR. So all these four combinations of configuration is possible. But what is MA architecture, maximum availability architecture? You should always have rack prod database, rack DR database, so that any failure happens, any switchover happens, you will be having the same kind of a configuration. Make sense? Any questions? Why we should have a DR database as a rack in production rack?
Now, Malik, what is N1 and N2 in the in production environment?
What is?
N1 and N2, you have marked, na?
Node 1,
Are
node
those-
2.
Okay. So
Server
is
1,
node
server.
same as instance?
Instance is your database instance,
Okay.
right? Whatever you run here, your database instance inside that node. Logical architecture instance is made up of your memory and background process.
Mhm.
Database
So,
instance will run inside your servers or the nodes, rack nodes.
so inside one node there will be one instance only?
Right.
Okay. But the database will be shared among these nodes?
Yeah, database will be shared here. It will be
Okay.
under shared storage, ASM storage.
Hi, Malik. I do have a few points. See, you asked for prod DR and relating to HALB and FO. So, is there any minimum requirement that should be considered while making DR against a prod?
Whatever your prod configuration, the same configuration should be for your DR. Again, as I told, you can set up any of these four. Like, I have running my prod database as a rack. Standalone, I can configure with whatever, my DR, I can configure whatever memory, whatever configuration I want it. There's no hard and fast rule. Like my prod node 1 and node 2 having 100 GB RAM and 100 GB RAM. DR, I can go with a 50 GB and 50 GB. And even I can go with a single DR node, I can go with a 50 GB RAM. But what's the purpose? So if you're following this architecture, your prod and DR has to run under rack and you should have a same configuration. So why? As I told, if the real disaster happens, my entire London data center crash, you're making your DR, New York data center as a prod data center. Your application will be pointing there now. So is your application is able to handle all the loads. Your new prod database, your DR become now prod. Is the prod database, new prod database is going to handle that application load. Right now your prod has a 2 node, 100 GB, 100 GB RAM, which is handling 200 connections, 2000 connections. If you go with a 2 node rack and 50 GB minimum resource, is the DR, which become now new prod, is going to handle that same 200 connections, 2000 connections? No. You may end up with your servers are getting crashed. Right? So in a real production use case, you should have a prod and DR, same setup, same configuration, no compromission in the resources. But you are willing to take a risk, you can go ahead and reduce any of the disk. You can set up with a 10 GB RAM, 20 GB RAM, 50 GB RAM. It left to you.
Okay, so configuration part we understood. Suppose there is, say, 5 nodes for
Right.
production. So correspondingly, there should be 5 nodes for DR.
Right. Ideally, your architecture should be of the same configuration, prod and DR.
So exact replication should be there.
Right. Again, what's the purpose? Already told you. In the real disaster, again, most likely will not be hitting any disaster scenarios. If the real disaster happens, entire London data center crashed. You have to run your production from your new data center. Right? So you don't want to lose the business. So for that, you should have a proper DR setup, similar setup to your pod. All right.
Malik, one more small question. So,
Yep.
in this Oracle RAC, why database is shared among all the nodes? Like, can we have some part of the database allocated to the node 1 and some part of the database allocated to the node 2?
Now how the users will be able to access? If the 10 users are connected over here, if I have 10 GB DB here and 10 GB DB here, 10 GB DB here, like these 10 users can access only this 10 GB. So what's the purpose? Why you want to allocate?
Yeah, so make it more faster actually. Like I have heard in Teradata, the database will be, each node will have some part of the database
Right, we
if
may
it is
end
an
up with,
MPP.
let's say it has a 10 GB here. You can make this 10 users to read faster. And what about these 10 users who are connected here? You want to read the data. So you want to pull this from here, and that's going to
Yeah,
become your bottleneck.
yeah.
Right? It's a shared storage. You are attaching the disk to all the servers. Is it as if this database is local to this, as if this database is local to this, as if this database is local to this? This is a shared disk which will be attaching to all the servers. These all the three servers will feel that this is a local storage.
But let's say you have 100 GB local storage versus 10 GB local storage. So anything you want to search in 100 GB local storage, that will take more time as compared to 10 GB local storage.
Again,
So
you don't need to worry about that. Even searching in 10 GB and searching in 100 GB, you have a lot of optimization with the database. The search is not like you're going to search entire 100 GB. You'll be running your indexes, you'll be running your optimizers. That will be much more faster. You're not going to search your entire 100 GB. Your query, you can do optimization. But again, these are local disk. Like, so whether you attach your 10 GB disk or 100 GB disk locally, it doesn't make any difference. That disk, you're going to attach it here.
okay.
All right. Let's quickly talk on the other one. So we just deviated for the data guard. Let's go back here.
Hello, Malik.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the difference of ASM and ASM lib?
ASM and ASM lib.
Yes.
So ASM library is a different story. ASM is your automatic storage management provided by Oracle. In order to create that ASM storage, let's say ASM is your automatic storage management. So you are keeping database on ASM storage. That's the simple understanding. ASM is a storage, automatic storage management provided by Oracle. ASM is automatic storage management provided by Oracle. What is this storage? You are going to keep your database on this ASM storage. And now, how you are going to create your ASM storage? How you are going to create ASM storage? So, right, we understood now what is ASM. ASM is a storage management, storage provided by Oracle, and where I'm going to keep my database inside that ASM storage. But question is how you are going to create your ASM storage. I will create using raw disks. So raw disks are disks which are created on top on the any storage vendor, NetApp or SAN or your any storage vendor. So you can create your ASM storage using raw disk or physical disk, or you can create using your block devices. So what are these? Again, it's out of DBA scope. What is raw disk, physical disk, block devices? It's a purely a storage concept. If your Linux admin or the storage admin is giving you raw disk, physical disk, block devices, then you don't need of any ASM lib. Then you no need of any ASM libraries. That's where you need to understand what kind of a disks you're getting it from your storage. If the storage admin providing you raw disk, physical disk or the block devices, then you no need of any of this ASM library concept. If your storage admin, I'll be creating your ASM storage will be created or creating. Your ASM storage will be creating using virtual disk. So your storage admin is giving you virtual disk, not the raw or the physical or block devices. If it's a virtual disk, then you need of ASM libraries.
Okay.
Then you need of ASM libraries. With the help of these ASM libraries, you're going to convert or you can say label whatever these virtual disks as a ASM disks. So that's the idea behind why you need ASM libraries. You don't have any of these physical or raw or the block devices, you have only virtual disk. Then you need to install this ASM libraries. With help of that ASM libraries, you can convert those virtual disk as a ASM disk. And then you can go ahead and then create your ASM storage. And you can keep your database on that ASM storage. And that's the only purpose for ASM libraries, in order to make that compatibility with virtual disks. Otherwise, you don't need ASM libraries if you're not using virtual disks.
Malik, one more question.
Can I say that in case of virtual disk, that is more applicable in cloud environment?
Nothing like that. Right? It all depends upon your storage, whether you run your database on cloud or on premises, what storage you are getting it.
So these concepts are remain same
Right.
in cloud and as well as on premise.
RAC is not supported in any of the cloud. If you are talking about AWS cloud or Azure cloud or GCP cloud, you cannot run your RAC there. RAC is not supported in any of the cloud vendor. RAC is supported only in Oracle cloud. Right? RAC is out of picture here when it comes to RAC. Sorry, cloud is out of picture when it comes to RAC.
So what about standalone, Malik?
Standalone is the same concept.
Okay, cool.
Standalone with ASM, it's the same concept. Standalone with file system, again, no ASM concept at all. All right. Let's quickly talk about.
No, I'm talking about the cloud. You were told RAC is not related to anything in cloud.
Right.
What about standalone in cloud? I'm asking.
That is again standalone with ASM or without ASM. Standalone will be a service. You're just going to run the single click and your database will be ready, and that will be running under its own file system. No ASM, nothing like that. If you go to your Azure cloud, you just click Oracle database as a service, and it'll be just a single click and your database will be running, and it'll be running under its own cloud storage. Right, again, there will be a lot of customization how you can configure your database and RAC. You want to configure manually by your own, and you have to work with all the storage, what type of a device, is it the block device, raw device, or the physical device. Then configure your database. Otherwise, standalone will always as a service. You just single click, your database will be ready, and it will be running under its own cloud storage. No ASM, nothing there. All right. Other questions. DevOps. Is it good to learn DevOps skills? And is DevOps is good in market? So with the help of DevOps, again, it's not advisable, like, it's not mandatory all the DB has to learn this DevOps. It's on your own interest. So meaning, can I learn this entire DevOps skills? It's not mandatory. But what to learn in DevOps skills? Let's say you are a Python scripting, you are a Terraform, you are Ansible, and you are shell scripting. So you can learn some of the concept from the DevOps like Terraform, Ansible, Python, shell scripting. Once you learn this kind of scripting, then you can do a lot of automation for your day-to-day activities in DBA, whatever day-to-day activities, and you're spending like 2 to 3 hours for monitoring. By writing this script, you can do a lot of automation. And once you learn Python and Ansible, you can do your patching automation. You can do hundreds of servers, hundreds of database patching with one single click. And again, if you learn this Python or Ansible scripting, you can do your database upgradation. And of course, you can do all the monitoring activities, database monitoring, listener monitoring, storage monitoring, your storage usage and your table space usage, all can be done using Python, shell scripting. You can write small monitoring script and automate your day-to-day activities. But some advanced activities like patching, your upgradation also can be done using Ansible or Python. So you have to pick up, like, it's not mandatory for DBA to learn DevOps. And again, as I told, cloud also has its own market and you will get a lot of opportunities in the cloud. And as a DBA, especially when you learn the cloud technologies, will be added advantages. And with the cloud technologies, there won't be any impact on the DBA role. So learning cloud technologies as a DBA is going to give you more opportunities and make your make your CV or resume stronger. And it's going to open up a lot of opportunities in the market for you if you learn the cloud technologies. But there won't be any major impact for the DBA role. Similarly, for the DevOps, there will be a lot of openings for the DevOps roles, but as a DBA, it is not mandatory you have to learn this entire DevOps. But what you need to learn in the DevOps, some of the scripting part. Once you learn that one, you can do many automations for your day-to-day activities. Right? That is the impact of the DevOps. And again, no need to learn DevOps skills as a DBA. It is again not entire DevOps course you have to learn and then up to date. Just some portion of the DevOps you can learn it. But as a DBA, learning cloud technology is going to be added advantages. It's going to open up for a lot of opportunities in the market for you. Right? So learn cloud technologies if that's a question. But DevOps, again, no need to learn. Some of the scripting you can learn it for your own interest and you can make your day-to-day activities as automated. Right. With that, last other questions, what many people used to ask is certifications. So there'll be hundreds of certifications in Oracle. What are the minimum certifications a DBA has to do? So there are core fundamental two certifications where anyone has to do. One is a DBA certificate, other one is RAC certificate. What is this DBA certificate? Let's say I'm working as 1 to 4 years of experience. I need to complete this DBA certificate. And let's say if I'm having 4+ years of experience, like 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, then you have to complete your RAC certificate, must. So this DBA certificate is nothing but a 19C OCP certificate. And then this is your RAC certificate or 19C RAC and ASM certificate. So if you're working as a RAC admin, let's say I have completed my early 4 years of experience and I already completed my OCP certificate. Now I'll be having 5 years, 6 years of experience. Then you have to complete this certificate. Then you will get a lot of opportunities in the market. If you don't have this certificate, then you won't be having much opportunities and your resume will not be get shortlisted for any job openings. Let's say in the market, let's one single position get open for a organization ABC. There'll be thousands of resumes will be flooding inside. So on what basis HR or the talent team will be shortlisting your resume based upon this certificate? Let's say position is open for 6 years of experience, and let's compare with the two resume I got it. One resume I can see 6 years of experience with just OCP certificate, and one resume again same 6 years of experience with OCP certificate and RAC certificate. Then obviously I can shortlist that second resume who has completed this RAC certificate. These certificates play very important role in shortlisting your resumes. As I told, one single positions in the market which is get opened, there will be thousands of resumes will be flooding in. On what basis HR talent team will shortlist the resume? Out of the 1,000 resumes, they will shortlist around 10 resumes based upon the certificate. And once you get your resume get shortlisted, whatever the technical interview, it is left to your ability. How strong, how in depth you understood this RAC concept, you will be able to crack that interview. If you're not studied or you're not understood this RAC concept in depth, you will not be able to crack that interview. You're going to lose that opportunity. So cracking the interview, it's all purely on your ability, how much you learned. But what is not in your hand, whether your resume is getting shortlisted or not. That depend upon how strong your resume and whether you have done your certificates or not, which is not in your hand. Because that will be filtered by your HR team or the talent team based upon the certifications and based upon how strong your resume and what are the points you specified in the resume. So that's why, running or completing this certificate is very, very important. For the DBAs, with this 1 to 4 years of experience, go ahead and then complete this OCP certificate, 19C OCP certificate, which is a combination of two exams, 19C Admin 1 exam, 19C Admin 2 exam. So you have to complete this 19C Admin 1 and Admin 2 exam. So both will be cost you around 20K. Right here, 19C Admin 1, this is a link for that one, which will be approximately 20K. And then we'll be having the link again, I'll be posting here. So this will be your exam 2. One, you have to complete this Admin 1 and Admin 2 exams. Once you complete these two, then you'll be getting this 19C OCP certificate. And then you can put it in your resume so that your resume will be stronger. For RAC certificate, anything you are having more than 4 years of experience, you have to complete this RAC certificate. So after this course completion, then you can plan for this RAC certificate. But before completing this OCP certificate, you are not allowed to write this RAC certificate. Again, that also cost you 20K. So here is the exam code 1Z0078 is a RAC certificate. Here 1Z0082, 1Z0083. These are your admin 1 and admin 2. Once you complete these two exams, you'll get 19C OCP certificate. And once you complete this 1Z0084 exam, you will get your RAC certificate. Right. Once you complete, these are the core fundamental basic certificate. Once you complete this, on top of that, you can learn any of the certificate. You can learn your EBS certificate. You can learn your Golden Gate certificate. You can learn your Exadata certificate. You can learn or you can attend for your OEM certificate, Oracle Enterprise Manager. Right? There will be hundreds of certificate for the specialized field. I'm good at EBS application side. I can write EBS exam. I'm good at Golden Gate. I can clear my Golden Gate certificate. I'm good at Exadata, or even your DR has a specialization certificate. Your performance tuning has a specialization certificate. So these are like other specialized certificate you have to choose based upon this fundamental certificate. Any client, if they're running the workload, the database will be either standalone or database will be either RAC. So these are your core fundamental certificate. As a DBA, you are working on a standalone or RAC. You have to target for these two certificates first. Make sense? Any questions here? Somebody asked about certificate. I hope that's clear now.
So,
All right.
Malik, will you be supporting for these certificate?
Right. That's correct. All right. With that, let's quickly talk about a few concepts around this architecture part. RAC.
Malik, before going to the concept, I have few questions regarding the curriculum. So, will you be able to cover the RAC performance tuning and tools as well as the migration strategies to RAC to Postgres, like a basic?
Right. Again, migration, theoretically, I can explain it, but no demo, no live demonstration. And
Okay.
coming to performance tuning, no. Performance tuning will not be covered here. Even for the database course, whatever the basic performance tuning will be covered. For the RAC, no performance tuning.
Okay. Like if for Oracle we have AWR and ASH report and all of those things, right? For RAC, is there any those kind of basic steps can you be able to cover?
Again, I can talk about few basics, but I don't guarantee that I'll say that I'll talk about end-to-end performance tuning. I can cover that AWR report, how you can read, I can generate, I can talk about that.
Okay.
But again, the moment you generate AWR report, there will be thousands of concepts over there.
Yeah.
So will not be possible to cover. That's a separate performance tuning itself is a separate course.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So what is RAC architecture? How the RAC architecture works? What are the networking will come into picture? And what we need to understand or what we need to learn in the RAC? What are the different ways or mechanism to install my RAC? So let's say I want to briefly discuss or briefly explain. Somebody asked what is RAC architecture. So simple definition, RAC architecture is a combination of multiple servers which will be communicating each other and form the clustering. So, but if you go in depth and want to explain RAC more, so you have to explain about the networking way. Let's say I can bring this particular concept here. RAC, the simple definition is a clustering of servers. I can cluster or combine two servers or three servers or four servers together. I can make RAC, real application cluster. So clustering of servers. It may be two node servers or three node servers or four node server. I can cluster together and all will be communicating each other. Then I'm gonna form my RAC cluster. So how this clustering is possible? How I can make this cluster? So for this clustering, Oracle will provide you a grid infrastructure software. With the help of this grid infrastructure software, if I install this software, which will gonna ask you what are the nodes, what are the server host IPs, host names, you want to make it as a cluster. I need to give that node 1, node 2, node 3. Then it's gonna form that 3 node rack cluster. So earlier days, what you used to do, I need to make 2 node rack cluster. What we used to do, step 1, install cluster on node 1. And then once we install, we used to copy that same cluster software on the second node, which used to make you 2 node rack cluster now. Okay, rack cluster is ready. Both nodes are start communicating each other. Second step is install ASM software. Once you install ASM software, you have to copy that to other node, ASM software. And then once you install ASM software, ASM will give you what? ASM give you your storage. Right here. ASM is automatic storage management provided by Oracle. You are keeping your database inside that ASM storage. ASM storage, once you install, ASM will give you a shared storage here. ASM storage. Then the third thing here, install your database or create your database. Database instance 1 and instance 2, and all the database related files will be inside my ASM storage. That's the typical way how we used to do it in earlier days. Install cluster and install ASM and install database. Let's say install cluster. Let's say U01 cluster. Let's say this is my node 1 and this is my node 2. And then after that, let's put it here. Right, install cluster. That's a step 1. Earlier days, what we used to do. And followed by second step, install your ASM. Let's say U01 ASM. U01 ASM. So for that install cluster, what we used to do? Download cluster software from Oracle. Oracle eDelivery support at oracle.com. We have to separately download this software, install that cluster software on node 1 and node 2. You have to install it on only node 1. The moment you install it on node 1, automatically it used to copy it to second node. And now after that, install your ASM software. For that, again, you have to download separate ASM software and install it. Use your own ASM. That's the second step. And the third one, install DB, it's a ASM software. There's a cluster software, ASM software, and DB software. For that, you have to download that DB software and DB home. Let's say DB home. Let's go one. Go ahead and then install it on node 1. Automatically, it used to copy to second node. So this was the tedious job to do a RAC cluster. We used to do this 3 installation. So with this 10G anodes, it's a prior to 9G we used to do it. Prior to 10G we used to do it. Like it is, let's say pre 10G. So in 10G we got 10G and post. So grid concept came into picture. What is this grid concept? Oracle has combined this cluster software and ASM software together and made it as a grid. So now we can download grid software and install grid infrastructure. So we just call it as U01 grid, U01 grid. So that grid software is entirely combination of your ASM cluster, your RAC cluster and ASM software. Together it will be one single software. So your grid is nothing but your cluster software plus ASM software. So cluster software and ASM software combined together, which made it as a grid software. So because of this grid concept, so our installation process reduced further, like just one software installation. As part of this grid, the moment you install this grid software, you're gonna form your 2-node RAC cluster and you're gonna install your ASM storage, and that's it. On top of that, we'll just go with this database software and we're gonna create our database. So now we are having grid software. Let's say whether I have that one single diagram I can show here. Give me 1 minute. Let's say it will be part of our regular course, but I can quickly show that one. Here is that. It here? No. Okay, somewhere here. Okay, got it here. Let's minimize this one. Okay, now. So this is your 4-node RAC cluster. And then you're going to attach this shared storage disk into your all the 4 servers. What are the disks? Raw devices or the block devices or the physical devices. If your Linux admin has given this raw devices or the block devices or the physical disk, then you no need of any ASM libraries. If these disks are virtual disk, then you need ASM libraries. I just explained. And you have to convert this virtual disk as a ASM disk. Then your ASM can understand. Once you attach the disk to all these 4 servers, and you're going to install your rack, you're going to set up your cluster. How you're going to set up your cluster? As I told here, you're going to install the grid software and you're going to install your database software. Once you install the database software and once you install the grid software, what you're going to do, you're going to connect to this node 1, install this grid software. You're going to install the grid software here, and once the installation is done on node 1, you're going to copy it to your second node. Same thing, you're going to connect to this node 1. You're going to install your database software here. Once you install database software on node 1, you're going to copy it to your second node. Then they're going to complete your grid cluster installation and your Oracle home installation. And later you can go ahead and create your database. So now here, once you set up this RAC cluster, so you're going to form, once the moment you install the grid, you're going to form your grid cluster here, RAC cluster here. What is there inside that? Your grid software. If I can go further, next slide. right? Right, inside that what you're having? You're having real application cluster, Oracle Home. I just explained that Oracle Home, Oracle software. And this is your grid infrastructure. That's the GI software. You're going to install the GI software and all the nodes. You're going to install that Oracle software and all the nodes. So for the quick demo here, I have this node 1. I have this node 2. Let's put it in a split window here. Node 1, node 2. Like I have this node 1 and node 2, where I have my ASM1 is running here, ASM2 is running here. My RAC database instance 1 is running, RAC database instance 2 is running. So for this, both the node 1 and node 2, what I done, I've installed this real application cluster, RAC cluster, that's nothing but Oracle Home. I installed this grid infrastructure cluster software. That's your RAC cluster software or the grid software or the cluster software. So where is that one? If I go U01 app 19C grid. So this is the grid software where I installed. If I do ls, so this will be entire grid software provided by Oracle. This grid software is a combination of your cluster software plus ASM software. Once I install it on node 1, it automatically copy to your second node. If I go to the second node, same location, I'll be having the same software here. Right, that is my grid software and followed by my RAC software. That's a database software. I installed my database software here, U01 app, Oracle product 19C DB1 ls. So I have this database software here. So same location, if I go to the second node, ls, I have this same database software. Great, that makes sense. On top of this database software here, that's your typical Oracle Home, and I'm going to create database. And on this cluster software here, I can call it as a cluster software or ASM software, or I can call it as a grid software. On top of the grid software, all the cluster services, cluster resources, all will be running here. Whatever the database instance and database resource will be running from this Oracle Home, whatever this cluster resource, cluster daemons, cluster services, all will be running under this grid home. So if I go further drill down this particular structure here, so this grid software is made up of Oracle cluster software and Oracle ASM software. Both together, Oracle has given that grid software. Again, if I go further in each of these concept here, my Oracle Home, which runs my database instances, and my grid software will be made up of ASM and made up of cluster. In ASM, we'll be running that ASM instance and ASM storage, and in the cluster, we'll be running that HA framework, node membership, OLR, OCR, and cluster resources, all of them. And this ASM instance will form that ASM storage. Likewise, again, further, if you go furthermore, this HA framework itself is your cluster resource. A lot of cluster resources will be running, right? This HA framework itself will be a lot of cluster resource will be running on each node. So quickly, if I want to show here, CRS CTL stat resource -t -init. So on node 1, we'll be having ASM cluster interconnect, CRF, CRSD, CSSD, CSSD monitor, CTSSD, Diskmon, EVMD, GIPCD, GPNPD, MDNSD, storage. All of them are your cluster resources on node 1. Same cluster resources will be running on second node. Let us set the environment plus ASM2. Same your ASM resource, interconnect resource, CRF, CRSD, CSSD monitor, CTSSD. All of them are cluster resource. So all these cluster resource together form your 2-node RAC cluster, and they will be start communicating each other. If any of these resources are down or not running, then your cluster will not be healthy. Your both a RAC cluster node, any one of the cluster node will go down. So make sure that your all the cluster resource will be up and running so that they will be communicating each other. Right. So that's again, if I go further down, each of these resource, what they will do, what's the task, what's the job, that's the regular course. We're going to explain more in that regular course. But for now, what we understood, we're going to install the grid. Grid is contains your cluster, which we're going to make 2 node rack cluster, and also grid has the ASM, which will provide you ASM storage, where I can install my Oracle home and create database and keep my database inside that ASM storage. So that's the overview of how you can install and how you can form your rack architecture. So in a simple layman term, what I explained, it makes sense, it's easy to understand. But if you do that installation, that involves your hundreds of IPs. So same thing, if I talk a little bit on the networking now, or else I give a pause here before I explain about IPs. Any questions so far on the installation and how this rack cluster works?
Malik, I have one small question. So by default in Oracle software, we use C cell. Like, don't we use bash here?
In ASM, in database software or ASM software, which is made up of all of this, we'll be having some shell script, we'll be having some Python script, we'll be having some um, Perl script. So it'll be combination of everything. So
Okay.
nothing specific about C shells or bash shells. So this is a combination of everything. If you go inside and then do ls, and each of these inventory, if you go, there'll be like shell script, and there'll be a Perl script, there'll be a Python script. Combination of everything your database software and grid software is. What's the purpose? Why you ask that question?
No. So just for the environment setup actually in the beginning only.
That's left to you. Whether you install your Oracle software and using a C shell, using the K shell, that is your own wish where you want to set up this software. But this software is nothing specific about C shells or bash shells. That's a
Okay.
user specific.
Okay. So current cell which you are using is C cell or bash?
Mine is C shell.
Okay.
Right. Now let's go with the node 1. Same concept. Node 2. So installation is straightforward, I told. Like just install grid software, which will form your cluster, and install your database software, which will be applicable for your database creation. But the installation of grid is not that simple. Just go and then unzip that software and then run the grid installation. So you have to do a lot of networking for that. What is that networking? So for that node 1, you need to have public IPs. You need to have public IPs for that node 1. Let's say my public IP is something like this. Public node1 dot local domain.com, and for this particular, I'm going to have this IP 192.168.1.101. Same thing for my node 2 102. That's the one set of IP I need it for my rack installation, public IPs. And I need second set of IPs, private IPs. I can say node 1 hyphen PRIV. And then that will be of a different subnet. I can go with a 2 dot series. Again, I'm not going to explain what is public IP, what is private IP at this point. It will be too early. Before understanding architecture will be making you confused what if I explain about networking. But I'm just talking about this, how you can set up your rack cluster by installing grid software and database software. But to install that grid software, you need to assign all these IP in prior to that installation. You need to have these public IPs, 2 public IPs for 2 nodes. node 1 and node 2, and you should have two private IPs, node 1 private, node 2 private. That will be 2 dot series. This is public is 1 dot series, and then it will be 2 dot series. And then you should be having VIP IPs, virtual IPs, node 1 VIP, node 2 VIP. So again, that will be of the same, whatever this public IP range, 1 dot series, 101, 1.102, 1.103, 1.104. So two set of private IPs or the VIPs, sorry. And then finally your scan VIP, or people will call it the scan IP. Scan is basically VIP. So it will be a scan.localdomain.com. Will be made up of default 3 IPs. You can go with the 4 IPs, 5 IPs, 1 IP, 2 IP based upon your configuration. It will be 5, 6, 7. So that's your a typical IP assignment. So if I draw in a diagram, let's go here. Or I can write here, give me a second. Let's say this is my node 1. Let's say this is my node 2, 2 node rack. So we'll be having this public IP in ETH0, ETH0, and we'll be having this private IP, ETH1. We'll be having this private IP, ETH1. So we'll be having this public IP and private IP attached to this interface. In Linux server, if I do ifconfig, so we'll be having this interface. So both this public IP and private IP is attached to this interface, and this VIP will not be having any interface. Right, so, and then this scan IPs again will be a VIPs. So again, these VIPs and scan IPs will not be having any interface like ETH0 and ETH1, how you can see these interfaces. Likewise, your VIP and scan IPs are the virtual IPs, will not be having any interfaces. So any client, let's say these are your scan connections. So any client want to connect to my RAC database. So connection will go to your scan IPs. Via scan IPs, the connection will go to your VIP. Via VIP, it's going to connect to your instance. And again, client 2 is connecting, it's going to go to your scan IPs. Via scan IP, it's going to go to that VIP. Via VIP, it's going to connect to your node 2. So if the scan connections are going to either node 1 or node 2 based upon your load balancing. Again, it is too early, we can talk in detail about our regular classes, but we have something called load balancing using scan. The scan, any client connection comes via the scan IPs, the connections will be routed to your either node 1 or node 2. And via scan, connections will go to that respective node VIPs, node 1 VIP or node 2 VIP. If the client 1 connection goes to node 1 and client 2 connection go to node 2, the connections will go via node VIPs, node VIPs. Why? Because let's say assume client 1 connected to node 1 via this node 1 VIP, client 2 is connected to node 2 via this node 2 VIP. Once this node 2 by some network issue or by some OS issue, node 2 crashed, node 2 went down, automatically this VIP will be fail over here. The moment VIP fail over, whatever this client 2 connected will be automatically fail over here. That's the idea behind that. Why all the client connections from the scan will go to that VIPs, because those VIPs will fail over to your other RAC cluster nodes. and automatically that connected client will be failed over to that other nodes. Same thing goes for your client 1 as well. So let's say client 1 connected via scan to this node 1 VIP. If the node 1 crash happens, this node 1 VIP will fail over here to second node. When this failure happens, whatever the client 1 who connected will be automatically failed over to your second node. That's the other concept failover, which is supported in RAC. So for the quick demonstration here, so CRS CTL stat resource -t. So I have this scan 1, scan 2, scan 3, scan 1, scan 2 running under node 1, scan 3 is running under node 2. I have this node 1 VIP running on node 1, node 2 VIP running on node 2. The moment node 1 goes down, automatically whatever this VIP node 1 VIP which is running under node 1, automatically it's going to fail over to node 2. And whatever this scan 1, scan 2 which is running under scan 1 and scan 1 is running under node 1, scan 2 and 3 are running under node 2. Whatever is running under node 1, automatically the scan 1 will fail over to node 2. So I can quickly do a CRSCTL stop CRS. I'm going to shut down my entire cluster on node 1. It's kind of a node 1 is getting crashed or node 1 services are down. The moment node 1 services are down, whatever the scan 1 running under node 1 will be goes to your second node. And whatever this node 1 VIP which is running under node 1, it will be fail over to your second node. And let's go to second node here. CRSCTL stat resource -t. And if you see your node 1 VIP intermediate and now it's running under node 2. Ideally node 1 VIP has to run on node 1, but it's now running on node 2. That is in failed over stable. So it's a failed over. Any client connected to this node 1, all will be failed over to a second node. And this scan 1 which was running under node 1, now it is moved to your second node. Again, what is the scan VIPs? Why they run on node 1, node 2? Why two IPs were running on node 2? Why only one IPs are running on node 1? We'll discuss in our regular classes. But how the failover happens? Because of the cluster down or service down or host down, your VIPs will go from one node to another node in the cluster. And that's going to be able to achieve your failover concept. Make sense? Any questions so far on the IPs or the failover?
Malik, so
Why
the
we need
existing connections will be the existing connections will be going to this node 2, right? So what about the new connections connecting to coming to the node 1?
No more
will
connections.
It be still... Okay.
Node 1 is completely down. That's your HA, high availability. Node 1 is completely down. Any new connection comes, directly it go to second node.
Okay, thanks.
Why we need 3 scan IPs, Malik?
Again, we'll explain about regular classes. I already told you, it's not only 3. It's the default is 3. You can go with 1 IP, 2 IP, 3 IP, 4 IP, 5 IP, your wish.
So this is for customer login purpose, connecting purpose, or?
Yeah, scan is a different purpose. We'll explain it on regular classes.
Well, if we have, let's say, 8 node cluster, then node 1 fails, then the incoming connections will go to which node?
Any of the node.
Like it will go randomly or we can set up?
Randomly. Cluster will decide that.
Okay.
All right. So any questions so far on the architecture part or the networking part? Maybe one of the common questions, how many IPs are needed for 2-node RAC cluster? And again, there'll be a lot of questions. What is public IP? What is private IP? What is VIP? What is scan IP? How many scan IPs are needed? What is grid software, grid cluster? And when this grid software came into picture, 10G onwards. And what are the cluster resources? I talked about here cluster resources. There'll be so many cluster resources. CRF, CRSD. What are the job of each? What CRSD will do? What CSSD will do? So cluster ready service daemon, cluster synchronization service daemon. cluster time synchronization service daemon, event management, grid inter-process communication daemon, grid plug and play daemon, MDNSD, broadcast messaging. So each of those cluster resource has its own task and job. We'll explain on our regular classes. But for now, I'm gonna take a pause and I'll stop it here at this point. We'll continue tomorrow with this further discussion on the file system, RAC versus standalone, and then grid ASM RAC, how we can do a monitor, administrative, some more commands. I'll play around this further in tomorrow's class.
Malik, before ending
Yeah,
this session, can you guide us how can we access the drive?
Next week.
Okay.
And regular classes will explain that. This is a demo today and tomorrow. Next week, once we start our regular classes, first session will be to go over that entire setup and enter Google Drive link and WhatsApp group. And for that, we can take it. All right, makes sense. I'll take a pause here. I can wrap it up for today. We'll continue tomorrow further.
Malik, can you send your rough text file?
Yep.
Now here?
Not here. In WhatsApp group, I'll share it.
Okay. All right.
All right, guys. Let's take a break. We'll continue tomorrow. We'll explore more topics on this basics, and then we'll get started by next week onwards with our regular classes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.